welcome to the CGS New Voices for Global Solutions Essay Contest Workshop. We'll be spending the first half of the session today chatting about the essay competition, giving you a brief introduction to Citizens for Global Solutions as an organization and an overview of this essay contest program. We'll be breaking down the eligibility and judging criteria and walking you through our essay theme and prompts to help you brainstorm topics for your submissions. And we also have our essay contest winner from last year here with us, who will give a brief summary of her experience from last year as the winner. And then we'll go into a Q&A at the end. So to get us started, what is CGS? Citizens for Global Solutions is a non-governmental, nonprofit, and nonpartisan organization seeking to advance governance solutions to global challenges and work towards a democratic world federation predicated on peace, human rights, and the rule of law. Our mission is to confront challenges that transcend national borders and work towards a democratic world federation of nations predicated on with the power to create just and universally enforceable world law, abolish war and armed conflict, and eliminate nuclear weapons, uphold human rights, and prevent atrocities, as well as protect and sustain our planetary home. This mission statement shapes our programming, which focuses on building political will within the United States for global cooperation and democratic international institutions. It also, our programming is very much focused around youth engagement and advocacy. So if you want to learn more about ways to get involved with CGS beyond this essay competition, we can chat about that at the end of the workshop. Moving on to the competition, the New Voices for Global Solutions Essay Contest is an annual student essay writing competition. Each year, CGS invites students across the U.S. to submit thoughtful, well-argued submissions that offer compelling ideas to revitalize international cooperation and strengthen global governance. Each year, we set a theme for submissions. This year's theme will be on UN reform through Article 109 Charter Review, which we'll be breaking down later in future slides in the workshop. To be eligible to participate in the competition, you have to be a current student living in the US, aged 18 to 30 years old. I want to pause here and just quickly clarify that that we do not ask your residency or status or your citizenship. All that we ask is that you are a student next year attending, at some sort of university in the US in the age range of 18 to 30 years old. Essays should be 2,000 words or about 2,000 words. You can go slightly over or under, but it's really important that you don't go too far over or too far under because it will impact the evaluation of your submission. And the submission should be sent to outreach@globalsolutions.org with the subject line 2026 New Voices for Global Solutions Essay Contest submission by July 12th at midnight at Pacific Standard Time. Lastly, we'll go into this in the next slide, but you must adhere to ethical standards. Please cite your reference, no plagiarism, no AI, obviously. The essay should be entirely written by you. So moving on to the other portion of the eligibility criteria, we ask that you submit this essay in APA format. The winner will be published in our Mondial journal. So we will require you to grant rights to CGS for publication, not only in the journal, but also on our website and other related platforms. The essays should be non-political and non-promotional, meaning that submissions must refrain from advocating for specific political parties, individuals, or commercial interests. Lastly, we gear this towards students, so we want to make it very clear if you have written a strong paper in the past on a similar subject and you're interested in diving deeper into that specific subject, we welcome you to use your past writing. We just ask that you let us know in the body of your email when you submit, so that way we are aware that this is partially relying on past written material for a course. So, the essay competition is run in unison with our Mondial publication program. Each year, we set a theme for our Mondial journal, which then dictates the theme for the essay competition, since the winner will be published alongside experts within that edition of Mondial. This year, our theme is focused on UN reform through Article 109 Charter Review, which we'll be breaking down in an upcoming slide. Lastly, before we jump into the theme for this year, we did want to provide a brief overview of world federalism. As you might have noticed in our mission and vision statement, we refer to Democratic World Federation. We are a World Federalist organization, and the conference that we send you to, the Ventatone seminar, is part of the Democratic World Federalist movement. So we want to give you a brief overview of what Democratic World Federation means. It is essentially a principle for global government that is based on the idea that we need to strengthen our global governance system, have a global government level with enforceable world law based on subsidiarity. And that principle of subsidiarity is crucial to this model, and it ensures that central authority government only acts when necessary, and that nations retain control over their own affairs. A good example for a multi-state federalist system is the EU. Obviously, within the EU, each member state has sovereignty and authority over their own domestic affairs, but there is the EU governing body that manages, relations and policies relating to EU governance. So that's an example of how multiple states can participate in one federalist system. If you're curious to learn more about Democratic World Federation, because it is like a interesting concept that is hard to summarize in one slide, we would be happy to speak with you afterwards and share some resources on ways to learn more about Democratic World Federation if you're interested. So we can chat about that at the end of the workshop. But with that, we'll now jump into the main topic of this year's theme. So I'll hand over to my colleague Cynthia, where she'll go over the prompt.
Yeah, so what is Article 109? So Article 109 of the UN Charter it allows member states to hold a general conference to review the charter. It requires two-thirds vote of the General Assembly and support from the 9 Security Council members. The P5 cannot veto the convening of a conference. So any amendments must be ratified by two-thirds of the UN member states, including all P5 Security Council members. The mechanism remains legally available, but a review conference has never been failed. So why does Article 109 matter? So today's global challenges, from climate change and armed conflict to emerging technologies and migration, often transcend national borders. The authors of the UN Charter recognized that the UN would need to evolve over time, and Article 109 provides future generations a mechanism to review and update the Charter. Article 109 also provides an opportunity to consider whether the UN should evolve to meet the challenges of the 21st century. A UN Charter Review Conference opens the opportunity to consider how the UN can be made more democratic, effective, accountable, and inclusive. So now going into the actual essay contest topic, from Charter to Change, Reimagining Global Governance through Article 109. So we're asking you to answer 2 questions in your essay. The first question essentially prompts you to diagnose a problem within the UN system, while the second question is asking you to come up with and argue for a solution. We're going to be breaking these questions, these prompts, in the following slides. So for the first prompt, what are the key limitations of the current United Nations system, and what might comprehensive reform of the UN Charter be necessary? So while you're thinking of this prompt, we offer some questions that could maybe help you come up with the problem that you want to talk about. So, how well do existing UN institutions address today's global challenges? Are current decision-making structures democratic, representative, and accountable? Where has the UN been successful, and where are there opportunities for improvement? Are there important international issues that existing institutions struggle to address effectively? For the second prompt, if a general conference were convened under Article 109, what specific reform would you propose to strengthen global governance? And in your response, you may want to consider institutional, legal, or democratic innovations, including maybe the creation of a new UN of new UN bodies, changes to decision-making structures, proposals for strengthening UN enforcement, and accountability mechanisms. And some of the questions that we provided here are: what specific challenge, gap, or limitation would your reform address? Are there legal, institutional, or governance innovations that could improve international cooperation? How could enforcement, compliance, or accountability mechanisms be strengthened? Would your proposal change an existing UN institution or create a new one? What impact would you propose have on addressing global challenges and improving outcomes to people around the world? Um, and these are some topics that the edition of the Mondial will be focused, making the case for the UN Charter reform, which we intend to include in the edition. You can pick one topic from the list, or multiple, or you can think of a topic of your own. So we decided to add these out just to help you out and see what you would like to talk about. And then with that, I'm gonna hand it back to Keshet, where she can talk about the judging criteria.
Thanks, Cynthia. So, yeah, I wanted to break down the criteria our judges will be evaluating submissions off of. So the first is responsiveness to theme. Um, Cynthia went over the theme. It's from Charter to Change, Reimagining Global Governance through Article 109. We expect all submissions to respond to both prompts to be eligible to compete, and they will be evaluated on their responses to both prompts. For in-depth analysis, submissions are expected to provide comprehensive analysis and well-substantiated arguments pertaining to the chosen subject matter. Originality and uniqueness, authors are encouraged to offer original insights, unique perspectives, or creative solutions on topics pertinent to global governance and UN reform. Submissions should be clear and engaging. Authors should strive for a polished and accessible writing style. Regarding the use of credible sources, we ask that you please once again cite your sources using APA format. The judges will be reviewing your sources. Authors are required to employ reputable and verifiable sources to corroborate their arguments and assertions. And lastly, respect for diverse perspectives. Authors should exemplify inclusivity and respect for various viewpoints, fostering constructive and insightful discourse. So now the exciting bit, the prizes. So for the essay contest winner, we have two main prizes. The first is publication in our annual journal, Mondial. We will be working with the winner to edit their essays to get it published. We'd probably be working with them starting in the fall after they attend the 2026 Ventotene seminar, which leads to the second prize and the larger prize in the competition, which is an expense-paid trip to the 2026 Ventotene International Seminar. We will cover all costs associated with the trip, including travel, accommodations, as well as providing stipends for meals. I also forgot to state the seminar this year will be occurring from August 30th to September 4th, but there will be a few additional days for travel where the winner would spend some time in Rome. I also just wanted to clarify, if for whatever reason, the winner of the competition is unable to attend the Ventatone seminar, either because they're not able currently to travel abroad or because they're just not available on these set dates, we do intend to find an alternative domestic event or conference with as close in equal caliber and prestige to a trip in Italy as best as we can domestically in the US. We really want to encourage any student who's interested in participating to do so. And please do not keep the attend like if you are unable to attend the trip to Italy, we will work with you to find something super exciting to replace this prize. Um, and then in the next slide, sorry, I lost my mouse. In the next slide, we give a brief overview of the history and the significance of the Ventatone International Seminar and the history of the island where it's occurring, as well as the Alterio Spinelli Institute for Federal Studies. We included it here on the slide. We won't be going over this in depth during this session, but we will be providing a copy of the presentation next week to all of those who attended the workshop and those who were unable to attend. So please do read about the history of this island and the seminar. It's really exciting, and I think it'll help you get an idea of what's in store for this specific conference. But in the meantime, we have our last year's winner, Isabella Smith, with us here today. So I wanted to hand it off to you, Isabella, to maybe share a little bit about your experience participating in last year's competition. You could talk about your experience in writing your paper or maybe your trip to Italy.
Yeah,
So
of
I'll hand
course.
it off to you.
Yeah, so writing the essay itself wasn't hard at all. I feel like after some research especially, the theme's pretty broad and it leaves room for creativity from the individual. So that definitely helped me in writing my essay. And from winning the competition itself, I mean, I started a World Citizens Club at my college and I joined the Youth Advocacy Network. So it was a very fruitful experience beyond just the competition. But going to Italy was amazing. As Cachette said, we were able to spend some time in Rome, and being on the island itself, there were lots of young people with similar ambitions and thoughts to me, all from different countries. So we got to kind of teach each other about our country's politics and learn from each other, which was amazing. Everybody was super nice and welcoming. And publishing in Mondial, super easy. I was connected with an editor and we went back and forth on edits. And yeah, everyone was just super sweet and super nice. And I'm so grateful.
Wonderful. Thank you, Isabella. Is there a chance you would be willing to share a little bit about what you wrote about in your essay? Last year's competition, I don't have the theme right in front of me, but it was essentially based off of the idea of promoting multilateralism in an age of growing isolationism. And Bella wrote a really exciting piece. So maybe you could give a bit of a explanation of what you wrote about.
Yeah. So in my classes, I was kind of learning more about the UN. So I was focused on how I could use the UN to reform multilateralism. And I made kind of a big idea of how we could use different countries' carbon emission taxes and we could bring it together into kind of a pot. And from that, we could use it to encourage participation in United Nations treaties and policies that were being passed.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bella. And if you want to learn more about Isabella's experience in Italy and learn more about her essay submission, we added a link in the presentation to our announcement from last year of her winning the competition. So you can feel free to learn more about her experience by visiting that link on the presentation. And we also have more resources available on our website to learn more about the competition and the theme for this year. With that, I believe that's the end of our presentation.